I need to give my brutally honest pay-per-view commentary debut for Laura Sanko, who made her debut at UFC 293 just a couple of days ago. I think she did a very good job. I'm going to be honest with you. I have a ton of praise for Laura Sanko in this video that I'm going to give, but I also have one major criticism and some other criticisms here and there that I'm going to mention. But the one major one that I have is probably going to get me in a little bit of trouble because no one else is going to say this. But I feel like it needs to be said and somebody needs to say it. And I feel like I'm the only one who's going to in this space. I'm going to get to that. But first of all, it was her first time on a pay-per-view commentary. And overall, I think she did a very good job. And I believe she is better than other commentators, other than this one thing that I'm going to get to in this video, I promise. But I'm going to try and dance my way around it for a second. Laura Sanko, this isn't her first time on commentary. She's been doing it at a Contender Series. She then moved on to the UFC Fight Night cards. I think it went from the Apex, then she did a crowded event maybe, and then she did a pay-per-view event. So it's a really good progression for a new commentator to work towards. Like, they start at the Apex, not so important, but still a big deal. And you increase the amount of big deal that you give them as time goes on and as their experience grows as well. So she was on pay-per-view commentary, and I need to give her a ton of praise straight away. She does her homework. She's very intelligible of the sport. She knows everything, you know what I'm saying? She's really done her research for the fights, which is more than can be said about other pay-per-view commentators, which I believe have the idea of, and this is something that I do like about Laura Sanko, because a lot of these pay-per-view commentators, like Michael Bisping, Daniel Cormier at times as well, they've done the sport. They are a world champion in the sport of MMA. So they have this mindset of, I deserve to be here. I'm not going to lose my job. I know best because I was a world champion. Like Bisping has said, like, where's your belt, buddy? And stuff like that he goes into. So they sort of have this idea of, I don't even need to try that hard because I'm the all-knowing god of MMA because I got a belt once. Which is a very good point, to be fair to them. I like Laura Sanko because there is this idea that she doesn't really belong there. You know what I'm saying? When you're not the MMA fighter. I mean, Laura Sanko has had, what? Some amateur MMA fights. I think maybe one pro MMA fight on her record. I'm not too sure. But she's not Joanna Jacek making her pay-per-view commentary debut in a comparison to like a DC would be making his commentary debut or a Dominic Cruz. So she's not put in the work in the sport. So there's this idea that she just sort of doesn't belong there as much as the others. But because of that, she puts in the extra work. Very knowledgeable, knows about all the stats, knows about what these fighters do well and what they don't. You know what I mean? She's watched these fighters, a lot of them, that are now on the main cards and stuff. Especially, she's seen them on the Contender Series. Like, I really don't think, unless certain commentators are working the Contender Series event, I don't know if they're really watching the Contender Series. I think they're getting some general notes, and they're just waffling a podcast over a fight. Laura Sanko did a very good job of breaking down a few things, okay? And I do believe she's better than Joe Rogan. Now, I will say, the reason why they put her on the 293 debut as her debut, or on the pay-per-view as her debut, is probably because it was in Australia, and I'm assuming that the other pay-per-view commentators, especially Joe Rogan, who doesn't do any events outside the US, aren't too keen in flying all the way across the other side of the world just to commentate a pay-per-view and then fly 24 hours back to the US. I don't think they're keen on that idea. So it was a good opportunity for the UFC to kind of excuse their debut for Laura Sanko to get her chance on commentary. She did a really good job, okay? But I'm going to break it down. I'm going to say what needs to be said. She's better than Joe Rogan. You know what I'm saying? She knows more about the current state of the sport than Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan probably knows more about the Pride era than Laura Sanko does. But as of right now, on these young prospects that are now coming into the UFC, Joe Rogan don't really know about them. Laura Sanko does, okay? So she's very knowledgeable, she puts the work in, and she's a very good commentator. However, I've strung you along long enough. This is what you want to hear. As good as she is, and as amazing she is, and as much work as she puts in, it just don't sound right in a female voice sometimes. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. All right? Crucify me. I've said the thing. Now, don't get me wrong, in the middle of a fight, when they're going jab for jab and low kick for low kick, who cares if there's a female voice? There was a couple of times in this pay-per-view card where I heard her screaming at a moment that was massive, and I was like, oh, it just don't sound right. You know what I'm saying? When you hear Jon Anik going crazy, Jon Anik is the king of this. And this is why pay-per-view commentaries are so important, because there's titles on the line, and those commentary moments of Jon Anik screaming about an amazing KO, they're going to go on and be echoed throughout promos for the rest of history of that fighter's career. You know what I'm saying? When Adesanya knocked out Whittaker, I can't remember if Jon Anik was there or not, but if he was, his one-liner after Israel Adesanya knocks him out is going to be echoed throughout every single promo of Israel Adesanya's career moving forward. So it's a very important spot to have. And I heard on a few occasions, all I'm going to say is this: Jon Anik, Sean Strickland, screaming about Sean Strickland, okay? DC goes crazy. Sean Strickland, oh my God. And they start screaming. Joe Rogan goes, oh, unbelievable. You know, and he starts screaming. Casual Joe Rogan, not putting in effort anymore. How wide can his eyeballs go to show that he's still interested, everyone? You know what I mean? That's the classic Joe Rogan. Trust me, guys, I still care. Can my eyeballs go any wider? I still care, promise. Like he's being held at gunpoint to have an overreaction. Either way, on a few occasions, I heard Laura Sanko's voice in heated moments. Sean Strickland! And it just don't sound right. And I know it's not going to change. And I know that it's unfair that it doesn't sound right, because that's just the way the world is. Okay? But Marlon Moraes is a man. I wouldn't want him on commentary. You know what I'm saying? Can we get a Brazilian woman on commentary? You know what I mean? Sean Strickland! And they start screaming like Nunes. Bring her in. You know what I mean? Oh my God. Sean Strickland with the KO. It could work if it was a Brazilian woman at times. I don't want Marlon Moraes squeaking around on commentary. Oh my God, man. He knocked him out, man. Totally amazing. You know, I don't want to hear that. And there was a couple of moments in the Sean Strickland-Adesanya fight where she was just screaming overexcited. And I felt happy for her, because it's a great opportunity for her. You know what I'm saying? She's worked her way to get there, and I truly respect her. But you got to admit, that was just not right in the ears. It just didn't sound right. It didn't get me hyped up. There's certain fights where I watch it back just to hear the commentary going crazy over something. And when Strickland was like landing good shots on Adesanya up against the cage, Sean Strickland! And I heard that. It just hurt. It just hurt. So what I'm going to say is, now and then, Sanko could be on pay-per-view. You know what I'm saying? Now and then she can do a title fight. Please, UFC. Just, let's not make this an every pay-per-view type thing. Okay? She can have the Apex gigs. Dana White's Contender Series. Whatever. Who cares? You know what I'm saying? Who cares? They're not going to be echoed throughout promos in the future. She can have the fight night crowded events. Not every pay-per-view. And I'm worried that with Disney taking over the UFC, that maybe there's going to be a push for there to be a certain representation on every pay-per-view card from now on. And I'm worried that we may be hearing John Jones go to Don against Stipe Miocic. You know? And that just is a bleak future. Now, I don't often listen to commentary because it's normally biased, and I don't like listening to it because... And this is something that Sanko might be able to change with the play-by-play she was doing at times. It turns into a live podcast where Bisping tells stories of back in his day. When I was a fighter, I used to love doing that. And I used to love going on runs. You know what I mean? And my wife's name is Rebecca. You know what I mean? And he goes on a massive rant about this and that. And who cares, Bisping? There's a fucking fight going on. Joel Alvarez is in the middle of finishing Thiago Moises. And Bisping's going, El Fenomeno. What was his name? Buddy. Well, shut up, buddy. And he's starting to big man Fitzgerald and stuff like that. Laura Sanko did a very good job technically. Skill-wise. She was great at commentary. She was knowledgeable. You know what I'm saying? She knew her stuff. Conor McGregor knocks out Chandler. And it's just, spend some time in Brazil. You know, everyone knows in Brazil, the women and the men's voices, they switch. I don't know what happens over there. I don't know what's in the acai. Sanko needs to go to Brazil for a month. Because it's not hyping me up the same way. Okay? That's all I'm going to say. What a minefield of a video this is. She's a great commentator. She knows her stuff. Sure. You know what I'm saying? there's many reasons for why she's a great addition. Okay? That's it. I'm joking. What? But either way, it's just like, it's not hitting the same. It's not hyping me up the same for a crazy big UFC moment. And it's not going to sound the same in promos. So Laura Sanko, take a trip to Brazil and switch the voice around. That's what happens in Brazil. You know what I mean? The men,
yeah, man, you know, man, I want to represent Brazil, man. I do this for big country, man. I want to dominate him, man. Knock him out, man. Round one, round two.
I get that. That's the Brazilian men. And then the Brazilian women come along.
I'm ready for good fight, you know. I want to put beating on him. I want to smoke him, show him dominance. I want to make sure she knows she's my bitch.
You know what I mean? You need to go over there, hit that Brazilian gender voice swapperoo, okay? Just gruff it up a bit. Smoke a couple cigarettes before a pay-per-view. Get gruff. Spend an evening with Don Fry before a pay-per-view. And via osmosis, through his sweat pores, you will obtain a deeper voice. Okay? But we need some gruffness in those screams, okay? We just need a bit of it because it just didn't sound the same. And I'm worried that at some point, there's going to be a legendary moment of UFC history. And it's going to be, you know, Colby Covington head kick KOs Leon Edwards after being smacked around for 5 rounds. In a crazy turn of events, he does the Edwards kick on Edwards in round 5. Maybe I've jinxed it, who knows? Colby Covington, 90 man old. And I'm just like, that was a legendary moment, and it's been ruined. It's been ruined by that, and that is a thing. Minefield of a video. I just think it's also kind of funny. So here's the thing, you guys. I need to get Strickland about this. You know what I'm saying? I think it's also kind of funny that there are legit like women's legends of the sport, but they just don't have big enough tits to get opportunities that Laura Sanko does. I respect Laura Sanko so much. And she's put in her work. She started as a journalist. She hung around James Krause for a bit, you know what I'm saying, at the gyms, and she got to know all the fighters and spoke to them and understood the fighters, and she wanted to have an MMA career of her own, and she's had MMA fights before. I get it. But, like, I just think it's funny that, like, Joanna's nose is a bit weird, though. She's not cut out for commentary. She's not cut out for commentary. You know what I'm saying? Hey, what about, this other women's legend of the sport that could do a bit of commentary? I don't know. We're not quite curvy enough for this. You know what I'm saying? So I do think it's funny that these, like, women's legends of MMA are just sitting idly by. You know what I mean? They could have tried to get Holly Holm in there. Maybe they're not good. Maybe they tried that and they're not good enough. Maybe I'm waffling. They just like, it was awful convenient that this great women's commentator just so happens to be a fucking absolute MILF of a thing, yeah? You know what I mean? Just a bit of a coincidence. You know what I mean? And trust me, it's the great skill of commentary she has. No, I'm joking. But great job on commentary, Laura Sanko. Had to make the video a bit funny. But that's my one pet peeve. It just don't sound right with that type of voice. And I wouldn't want Marlon Moraes on commentary either. I just wouldn't. So spend a bit of time with Don Fry, go to Brazil, switch up the voice, you know what I'm saying? Confuse a few people. And then smoke some cigarettes, have some whiskey, go partying the night before, get that gruffness to the voice. You know what I'm saying? I'm not expecting you to sound like Don Fry. You know what I mean? I'm not expecting you to have a clogged throat like Sean Strickland does every time he speaks, it seems. Which he just sounds like he needs to clear his throat every second of every word he says. I'm not expecting that. But can we just turn the pitch down on the hype moments? Because there was a few moments in there. She was great, though. Unbiased. Really good. She was, like, bigging up the underdogs in fights, which is normally not what people... I know the commentary often does that, but it's only really when the underdog is a star in the making and has star potential that they do that. Often they're just talking about how great a champion is, like Joe Rogan talking about, oh, but Jan Blachowicz is eating all these feints of Israel Adesanya and stuff like that. But yeah, it was just those moments that I was hearing. Sean Strickland! And it was just like, God, no, don't be screaming like that over a fucking legendary moment. You know, don't be screaming over that, over like the best fucking main event pay-per-view KO we've ever seen in UFC history. You know what I'm saying? Just do a bit of just thought I'd share some opinions on that, because all I'm hearing is praise. And there's an elephant in the room. Or in this case, there's a woman on commentary, which I'm a fan of. You know what I'm saying? What a fucking minefield. Which I'm not saying is a bad thing, okay? I'm not saying it's bad. I like it. I'm more power to her. But, you know what I'm saying? Couple weeks in Brazil. That voice will get real manly, okay? Or you'll forget how to speak American. Look what happened to Mackenzie Dern. Or speak with an English-American accent. Who knows? Maybe it'll be backfiring on you. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see if this one gets me cancelled, but I just think it needs to be said. So, no one's going to say it, so I'm going to say it. See you later. Goodbye.